moves, we can't ever really know what's going on.
Appearances can be deceptive.
Tom, I was just speculating about a hypothesis. I know I don't know nothing.
Uncertainty. That is appropriate for matters in this world.
There, we're in a tight spot.
Hello, welcome to Framework. I am Al Schwartz, coming back to you with the Coen-Oscopy, our ongoing series about the filmography of the Coen brothers. With me, as always, a man who is not here representing Hard Bodies, Mr. John Bernard.
It's me.
Oh no, is this Mr. Black?
Mr. Black.
You have to really work to so we can hear the squinting. But we have another guest here today. Somebody we met before, a man who, well, he's not set up to mold hard rubber, but we had him on anyway. Mr. Matt Rose.
Good afternoon, guys.
Thanks for coming back. Burn After Reading, the film of the day, the immediate follow-up to No Country for Old Men. I don't know. What is the perception of this film at large? What do you guys say?
I think that the Letterboxd crowd really champions this one as like it's the most popular one to cite as their underrated masterpiece.
It seems to, I think most people kind of regard it as being kind of a mid-tier effort. You know, Not their best, not their worst, pretty mid-tier, but it has the champions out there, of which, just a full disclosure, I'm one of them.
Yes.
Well, okay. I mean, I put it in the mid-tier. I think that's that's like Library of Congress level still. So when you say you're a champion, do you put this actually in your, say, top 2 or 3 of their output?
I don't think this is their best film, but this is my favorite one, if that makes
Really?
sense. Yeah.
That's interesting to me because, like, you know what? I like this movie, but there's a lot of really good movies these guys made. Like some of the all-time greatest movies of all time. Like, yep, the all-time
the
greatest
last
of all
one
time.
they made. The next one they're going to make.
Right.
Excellent films. But it's also not the easiest movie to like. You know, it is funny, but is it the most rewatchable movie ever? Like, I don't know, because these are John, you were mentioning earlier that this cemented their reputation as misanthropes. Like, yes, this is, I'd say, the most openly misanthropic of their entire oeuvre.
Coming as it does after No Country for Old Men, it's very hard not to take the impression that the Coen brothers have taken a misanthropic turn, and they kind of have contempt for humanity as a whole, and regular people certainly. Just kind of the way things are in general.
But I don't think of Matt as having any of that sort of contempt for humanity.
No.
At all. So I'm surprised that this is the one that he really globbed onto.
It's just, well, for me, it's just, I think everybody can identify with every character in this to a certain degree. You know, everybody is the John Malkovich character, where everybody just frustrates them. You know, at least at one point. You know,
Malkovich is probably the one I relate to most.
Just, you know, when you think about the people that you have to deal with in your life, you know, and occasionally you just deal with these morons, these self-obsessed, narcissistic, oblivious morons, and then every once in a while in your life, you are the Brad Pitt character. Every once in a while in your life, you are the Frances McDormand character. You are the George Clooney character, and you don't realize it. You know, but and I don't know. I love the film because it's a film where the Coen brothers both love and hate every one of the characters that are on the screen, and it's filled with so much negative, funny energy. I think it's hysterical. I think it's one of the I think it's their funniest movie, probably right up there with Raising Arizona in terms of just consistently funny.
It is a funny movie. I laughed quite a few times at this, but I mean, we're talking like Raising Arizona, Big Lebowski. I'm not putting it in that tier. It's all just those are some very. It's rare air, to say the least. And and this one is so mean. This one is so angry, and
it's gloriously mean.
And yeah, now we talked a little while ago about intolerable cruelty, and I really bumped off that film. I was quite pissed off at it, frankly, and a big part of it was just like this is just such a pissed off movie, and it's just sort of smiling and grinning and being like, ain't we a romantic comedy? Isn't it funny what assholes these stupid people are? And it turned me off. It's not my favorite mode for them. This is a much better version of that, I would say. A much more successful rendition of that vibe. At least, this time I'm laughing. I'm getting the joke this time. And there's no hiding what they're doing behind some sort of Cary Grant romantic comedy thing that they're attempting.
Because it's a spy thriller is what they're sort of the skin suit they're putting on over it, but that it's much more knowingly like fucking with that whereas intolerable cruelty, it's not really clear to what level they are satirizing the thing and versus actually just doing the thing. But here the satire comes through by the end.
Oh, no mistake.
I think very clearly.
Yes.
But intolerable cruelty is an interesting, I think, point of contrast with this, because that is something like a movie that I like more than most. But Matt was saying this is a very, their funniest movie, and I will split hairs on that. I think that like intolerable cruelty, I laugh more frequently throughout the runtime of that movie, more steadily. And Regret for Reading is one where there's pretty big gaps where there's like scenes where I don't laugh. And then there's like 2 or 3 of the best punchlines in movie history. The reveal of the sex chair, the closing J.K. Simmons stuff, the Brad Pitt's demise. I think these things, when this movie hits, it hits so hard for me. But it's not like really deliberate. I mean, I guess maybe Big Lebowski is even better contrast, because that's one where there's not a ton of big laugh out loud moments throughout for me, but every scene is amusing. I'm constantly chuckling if I'm rarely cackling.
And I'll agree with that. I mean, I think I like Big Lebowski, but I don't like it to the degree that a lot of people really, really laud it as some sort of masterpiece. I think it's pretty good. And as you say, Al, it's one of those ones where it's consistently you have a smirk on your face throughout. Whereas this one has some of the funniest scenes in the entire Coen career. I mean, the phone call when Brad Pitt and Frances McDormand call John Malkovich, and it's just Osborne Cox. Who is this? It's like a 3-minute scene of some of the funniest. I mean, I'm literally doubled over with laughter. The script is so sharp there. The performances are so, who hasn't had a conversation that's just so frustrating with somebody? Just, yes. What do you want, you moron?
I love watching Tilda Swinton wake up in the background and just sort of just angrily sit there while he finishes screaming into the phone. That's good stuff.
We could go right into Brad Pitt at this point, I suppose. Like revelation of a performance. There are things in this that I guess do reward rewatching that get me more like, yes, Tilda Swinton in the background of that. It's not what you're focused on initially. You're just on how Brad Pitt's doing his man of mystery voice and like squinting over the phone as though that's going to relay anything.
He thinks he's so suave too. He thinks he's so cool. Like, I know exactly what I'm doing.
A mere good Samaritan. Like, and then towards the end, where he's like, "Am I out of line here?" Like,
you need to secure your shit. Just who is this? Malkovich is gradually losing his temper, and it's punctuated like every 30 seconds with Osborne Cox. Yes, would you stop?
I like that they kind of like slowly back into blackmailing him over the course of that conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not exactly how they thought it was going to go or wanted it to go, but they just get there somehow. Almost by accident. It's great.
They call him at 2 a.m. though. Like that's their like why couldn't this wait till morning? I mean, if you're not trying to like threaten him right out of the gate, Just
Right.
You're right. What they settle on, or what she settles on, really.
I think they were wanting to. I think they went into it thinking they'd get some sort of finder's fee, and then it turns into blackmail.
But if it is supposed to be a friendly finder's fee situation, it could wait until the morning. Is my point.
Sure.
Look, I mean, the thing is, everybody in this movie is very, very dumb. And,
right.
But it's important that they all be dumb in different ways.
Well, I disagree. I don't think Malkovich is dumb. I think he's just surrounded by dumb people, and it just frustrates him to the point where he's at a 10 out of 10 on anger.
I think that gives him an inflated sense of his own intelligence because he deals with stupid people constantly. The thing that, on rewatching this a couple of times, that has been gets funnier to me each time is when he decided he's going to write his memoir, and the scene of him lying on the fainting couch with his dictating, and the thing that he's the way he started says we were young and committed, and there was nothing we could not do. We thought of the agency less as and every time I hear that now, it gets funnier and funnier how that is ChatGPT memoir 101. It is
right.
That is the least inspired thing that I have ever heard, and I don't think that probably didn't register to me as a joke in 2009 when I first saw this. And now that we've dug so deep into the Coen brothers, I think that they did a whole movie in Barton Fink about jokes about hackneyed writer stuff, and they're definitely aware of how uninspired this memoir is.
It's self-mythologizing and banal, and
at the same time,
yeah.
But he thinks it's going to be pretty explosive stuff.
Oh, sure, it'll be a revelation.
Should we give a brief kind of this is what this movie is, kind of because even coming back to this, I was like, what the fuck is the plot of this movie really? And it's very much, it's kind of nothing really. It's kind of
totally
people,
is.
Yeah, just people getting caught up in some bullshit and watching that play out. But it's almost a French farce in a way.
Yeah.
It seems like it kind of started from a place of being, okay, it's a bit of a Patriot Act, surveillance state satire, and as a place to start. And then it kind of just spins out into its own thing over the course of the movie.
Which is largely, as you say, a sex farce.
Right.
That's what the people are really preoccupied with.
Yes. And everyone's so self-absorbed. And to your point about it being about nothing, there is really no overarching plot, and they even comment on it with the J.K. Simmons and David Raish characters. What did we learn? Not to do that again. Okay. There's really, what happens in the movie is people fuck up. That's really all it is.
Nothing that matters ever. Yeah, I'm
right.
There are no stakes. Now, people convince themselves there are stakes, that this explosive material is, we're going to sell it to the Russians. Crazy shit that they come up with, but it's nothing. He's only security clearance level 3. So how big a deal could it even really be?
It's not even the ending that establishes it. It's the first appearance of J.K. Simmons that establishes the lack of stakes. Right. Where he goes in there and he's sort of trying to get him up to speed, and he's like, all right, whatever. What's this guy's clearance level? It's 3. And then J.K. Simmons just goes, oh, okay, no biggie, is what he says.
Yeah, no biggie. I know. Yeah.
Report back to me. I don't know. It makes sense.
Exactly. And and I'll be honest with you. I'm assuming J.K. Simmons was there for a day to film his scenes.
Probably.
And I could watch an entire 90-minute movie of nothing but David Raish and J.K. Simmons just describing everything, because they're David Raish's halting and then he delivery is spot on, and Simmons is just, don't worry about it. Who cares? Fuck it.
These guys are wonderful. This is like Armando Iannucci level kind of just bureaucratic, fast talk nonsense, and they're so good at it, and it's really nice to see J.K. Simmons come in and ace this small role after giving the worst performance of his career in The Lady Killers. It's this is how you use him, and it's nice to see them just do it right. Fairly easily. No big muss.
Well, Simmons is, and I'll be honest with you, I have not seen The Lady Killers yet. I know by reputation alone, so I've never bothered seeing that one.
If you
But
want to see a
Simmons has
bad
been
J.K. Simmons performance, it's
all
kind of
right,
weird. It's
all
an
right.
odd thing to witness.
But Simmons is usually the best part of any movie he's in, or memorable at least. I go all the way back to 1994 when he was in The Ref, which is a very early role for him.
Yeah.
He's the military at the military academy, Siskel. His name ends up being
right.
Siskel in it,
That's
and
right.
he's very, very funny. It's a small role, but he has some good funny bits in it too. But consistently, he's one of those great actors. And it's cool, that Whiplash really put him, raised him up to kind of A- list, maybe.
Oh,
yeah.
totally.
I mean, yeah, Spider-Man, I think, was the stepping stone towards Whiplash, and then that put him on the map with Oscar nominations and so forth. Yeah, I mean, look, but you're right. David Rash is the unsung hero of those scenes. That his stammering is so precise, and how it's deployed, and it allows J.K. Simmons to be getting increasingly impatient, which is the mode we want J.K. Simmons in.
And he seems to be one of the most underutilized actors in cinema, because he was great back in Sledgehammer. If you ever watched that show back in the 80s, it was kind of one of those cult favorite shows. But he's one of those. Whenever he shows up, he's usually very, very good, and he should be getting more work, because whenever he's utilized, he's typically very good.
He's a New York theater guy to some extent. I mean, he's in a show right now on Broadway. He's
really
he does that sort of. Oh yeah,
cool.
He's he works, but yeah, he never kind of had the breakout role. It never quite clicked in that way.
Unless it's Succession recently. I mean, but I don't know that he cares about capitalizing on that to try and
probably not
get into the Batman Part 2 or whatever.
He could be Clock King.
Yeah, definitely could.
But this is well used in this. Here's the thing: I'm like trying to remember things I've seen him in, and I know there's plenty. I can't actually recall any right now. He's in United 93. I know, a very very different film.
An Innocent Man.
Yeah,
Tom Selleck.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's
one of the cops.
That's taking me back. I'm sure that if I looked at his IMDb, it'd be like, oh yeah. But he's one of those guys, one of those great character actors that is kind of at a level of recognizability underneath your J.K. Simmonses and such.
Yeah, well, we don't have 15 minutes to spend going through David Rash's IMDb. We've got to talk about the headliners here. We got your Malkovich, your Swinton, your McDormands, Clooney's, and Pitts, of course. I mean, I think Pitt is the standout here. Gives the sort of scene-stealing supporting performance, and also kind of I think this is the role that sort of cemented him as a comedic character actor at heart.
It's a revelation. I mean, you watch this and I had no idea that Pitt had this in him. I mean, he could play charming and kind of a doof. He showed that he could do this, for instance, in the Ocean's movies, especially, in all that, but not to this degree. I mean,
that's a totally different kind of comedy. That he's doing.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. But I mean, you look at him here and he's so spot on with every moment, and again, the fact that he's an idiot and doesn't know he's an idiot. He plays him like he's super suave. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to blackmail this guy. You can just see the wheels spinning in his head and you just go, you idiot. And then you have J.K. Simmons going, you idiot, speaking on your behalf, going, who is this? It's just so great.
I mean, so the other thing that's interesting to me about this as a script, I would say, is that it is something that kind of only certified geniuses could pull off, or it's because on the page, half the jokes in this movie I don't think are there or land. It is written very specifically to these actors and to their performances, and I don't think anywhere in the script it says Chad always turns his head at a complete 90-degree angle to drink from his squirt water bottle. That's what he does. And it doesn't say that he spends that entire scene where they're going over the disc for the first time, doing excited finger guns with his hands, he's pointing constantly, like doesn't realize he's doing it. It just there's a lot of things here that on the page do not elicit a laugh, but the performances are very goofy. I mean, yeah.
As I understand it, they wrote the script with the actors in mind. They specifically they built. Well, yeah, they wrote that character with Brad Pitt in mind, and they approached him on it, and he was like, I don't know if I can play this, and like, oh yeah, you can play this, and then of course they had other people they'd worked with before, but from what I understand reading up on it, that they literally wrote this with these specific actors in mind, envisioning the performances, and you can totally see it in here because, as you say, and I agree with you, on the page, if you were just read the script, it probably wouldn't work, but you would need to visualize the actors performing it. In a prime example, again, on this, I'd say, is that phone call scene where the actors just kill it.
Yeah.
It's finding, it's finding that character, not just in the line delivery, but in the body language, in the inflections, in the cadence, and everything that goes with it. And to your point again, Brad in particular is amazing.
I think they're all pretty much on fire. Like right. Clooney in this is like he's so good in this. Like he is right. He is really on point. I'm really taken with kind of everyone's work in a way. The line readings in this, I was really struck how many great line readings there are in this thing. Like they are some hilarious performances just in the way things are said. The biggest laugh in the whole movie for me is it's the reveal of the sex machine.
Oh yeah.
And Clooney's line immediately is like $100 all in. I just started cackling.
The thing is, my favorite line is the one I referenced in Matt's introduction of him like trailing off at the end about how like, oh, plus the cost of the dildo. Those things aren't cheap.
Right.
I'd like to. I'm not set up to mold hard rubber. It's just
right.
Trailing off thing. That line gets me on the page. Mold hard rubber is a funny phrase, but the pure delivery things that I don't think it looks like anything on the page, but the sort of 1,000-yard stare when Richard Jenkins is showing his picture of himself as a Greek Orthodox priest. It's, in many ways, I'm much happier now, and it's so unconvincing.
McDormand's response to that, by the way, I was like, "Oh, that's a good job."
But going back to Clooney, and I agree with you, Clooney's spot on. But I think one of the strengths of Clooney here is how dialed in he is on just his facial mugging, if you will, because he drove me nuts. In Intolerable Cruelty, he didn't work for me. He was good, doing it in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? But yeah. Here he's really, really dialed in terms of, just his facial expressions and stuff. And he nails it, in particular in the final bit when he's in the park and he's getting all, who do you work for? Staring, looking around all paranoid. I mean, that's just brilliant performance from him right there. He's great the whole movie. Hey, I feel like going for a run. I can get a run in, all that stuff. Just the little things. Hey, is this floor white pine? Yeah. The little things like that, that he does. But the facial expressions that he has, it's like he's perfected it for this movie. And he's great.
And he might have the hardest role in the whole movie because that is a character that does feel kind of overstuffed with affectations and bits. You're right. So if we're describing him, he is a federal marshal who's also a sex addict who is also hung up on flooring in every room he walks into, and building a secret dildo sex chair in his basement. So he's a hobbyist builder also. And also has hypochondriac allergy issues of some sort. Where he says that he's allergic to shellfishes and cheeses, but then eats them anyway and seems to be totally fine. That's just there appears to be hats upon hats upon hats. And this person is also like bridging because he's sleeping with Tilda Swinton, who's married to Malkovich, and with Linda. And he's really
everyone.
That character has the most going on, and Clooney pulls it off really well, I would say.
Well, he's just such a buffoon, and that superficially charming, and he's very hot. He's George Clooney at this age, so that kind of masks just this sort of just stupidity and shallowness and just sort of selfish nature. It's it reminded me of that 30 Rock a bit with the John Hamm character, where he's just he's so handsome that he never had to learn anything, and he's just a very, very stupid man as a result. I forget the 30 Rock phrase they use for it, but he's never actually called on to be exceptional in any way because he looks like George Clooney.
Well, he thinks he's smarter than he is. The thing is,
everyone in the film,
right?
Yeah.
But in particular, he's like he thinks he's really, really smart. He's like, nobody knows what I'm doing. I can have these affairs on the side. You know, I'm gonna be a sex addict. I can do all this sort of thing. My wife doesn't know all that, and then it all comes tumbling down. He's off to Venezuela. He's one of those guys.
Really great.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic resolution for this character, for every character, really.
I know.
But we'll get to that at the end.
Yeah, all right.
Well, I think it's an open question whether his wife knows about the affairs or not, or if she's just having one of her own and divorcing him based on that. I mean, you kind of presume that she does. She's one of the only people that doesn't seem to be an idiot,
right,
in this movie,
right? So
she probably is onto him. I would say Tilda Swinton probably also has a pretty accurate gauge of her own intelligence, for what that's worth. She's the one character who's not unlikable because they're stupid, just because she's unlikable.
Is she putting any eggs in the relationship with George Clooney basket, though? Because that would be stupid.
That is dumb. You're right. I cut her a little bit of slack on there because it's sort of a way out of the Malkovich basket.
Sure. Yes, that's fair enough, and that seems worthwhile. Clooney is. Would you call him the lead of this film? I mean, I guess this is kind of a classic. There is no leads script, I suppose. He's sort of positioned as the main character, but I don't know.
He's more reactive. I think Linda is the character that's driving the action the most.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Kind of
in the second act. In the second act, she is for sure.
But the Clooney character is very reactive, but also, like I said, he's sort of the connective tissue between the different plots.
Right.
So he's got a foot in everywhere. He's oblivious to that role. Right. So it makes it a little hard to say. I mean, this is an ensemble piece. There's not really
I'd say the movie puts John Malkovich as being the lead, at least in the first act, when you're setting everything up. And then at the whole movie kind of builds around him, and everyone else is reacting to their, being connected to the situation that he's put into. But yeah, there's really no hardcore lead, I think, that you could put on this. I agree. It's just, everybody has their focus.
Yeah, if you made me pick, I'd go with, I think, Linda, because she is most actively pursuing a thing. She's also the one who gets the happy ending, I guess.
We'll get to that too.
Just the ending scene, I think, is its own section here. We should probably save that for the end.
I do want to talk about Frances McDormand. This is the performance I think goes too far. This is the one I think is. Obviously, we've had stupid people that the movie has contempt for, and the pleasure is in how dumb they are. And that's true of everyone except Linda Litsky, I think, where the movie has white hot contempt for her, and the actress does too. Like they hate this character so much, and I get that Frances McDormand doesn't really get to play characters like that, and seems to be relishing in the chance to play just a fucking gargoyle demon in the performance here. But my goodness, this is a loathsome figure.
I don't know if that's a performance issue. I think that's the character as designed.
Yeah. She's completely self-absorbed. I mean, everyone is to a certain degree, but her character is so completely self-absorbed and so laser focused on getting these surgeries that she's oblivious to, like Richard Jenkins is obviously doing everything but saying "I love you" to her, and she's just totally clueless about it. And she's not seeing what she's got in front of her. She's so just and. Yeah,
she's so unpleasant and so stupid that I lose all respect for Richard Jenkins too. Though
exactly, yeah, you don't understand how. I mean, I guess the people you work with, it's easy to develop sort of feelings based around just proximity or whatever. But you do wonder what this guy seems to like not be as oblivious to the world, to like miss all the ways that she is horrible. Anyway, she's this incredibly narcissistic character, but also so unremarkable in
her goals are so shallow. So
yes. Yeah,
so
the cosmetic surgeries.
Pursuit, this thing that clearly will not make her happy. She's she's an older woman. Like this is not. This is like kicking the can down the road 5 years at most, after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars or how much it would cost. On her, gym membership salary. It's
whatever. I guess I don't have like sure whatever it makes you happy would be my general philosophy on that, but it is one of the least respectable goals that a character could be striving towards.
The movie thinks it's very bad. I mean, the movie is it's terrible, and they treat this character like this is like how Samuel L. Jackson is in Django Unchained, honestly, except for like the sort of internalization of the male gaze. Except it's like the Substance, but less sympathetic. It's really, really nasty to her, and because it's not something that's presented as like a social ill. It's like all her. This is all her myopic kind of worldview.
Yeah, I mean, if we're to feel any incipient pity for her, and this shallow world that's forced her into the like trying to go to these extreme lengths. When she opens up the dating profile and starts just immediately dismissing every guy based on their profile picture, like in the shallowest way possible, it's like you lose any ability to respect her.
Every scene that she could be horrible in, they find a way to make it as pronounced as possible. Every interaction she has with any sort of like representative on the phone, she just goes full Karen immediately.
Let me speak to your supervisor. One of those people. Yeah. I know. But
before that was a meme.
I know.
This movie was ahead of that.
I know.
But I mean, like the narcissism element. I mean, usually, at least in movie terms, that grows out of the character being exceptional in some way, and that gives them this inflated sense of self-worth or self-ego or ego or whatever. She is a very unremarkable intelligence,
right?
Not some great beauty that you can sense in her younger years. She was like, Miss Delaware or whatever.
But I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit to the ending here. She's also the only character that doesn't get her comeuppance in a certain, at least even in a minor way. She gets what she wants, and there's no real pushback on that. Whereas every other character, Clooney's off to Venezuela. Pitt's dead. Jenkins is dead. Malkovich is in a coma.
Basically dead. Yeah.
Basically dead, right? And she gets her surgeries. Fuck it, pay it.
Yeah. Well, that's so we'll talk about the final scene that really ties the whole room together, as it were, in this case. But do we have anybody else?
Well, Jenkins. I mean, he's great. We kind of touched on a little there. This is the first time I think the Coens really got full use of him. They've used him a little bit up to this point, but now, this is the great character actor that we've kind of come to know in the last 15 years, really, really hitting his stride. And in good shape in this film too. I love this guy. He is one of the most underrated, I think. I mean, I guess he's not anymore. He's an Oscar nominee and stuff like that, but it's kind of amazing the gravitas he can bring to this character. Who is a dumb guy too. He has to be to be into her, and just like the depth of sorrow in his eyes in this. He goes full on into what this character needs to be for the entire joke of him and the ending to work. And yeah, like I said, this is, you lose respect for him, but this is the closest to a nice guy this film has, I suppose.
Definitely.
He's the one character you kind of pity.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You pity him. That's what it is.
Right. When he's in that scene with Francis where he's going, some people just don't see what's in front of them. You're like screaming at the TV. Mm-hmm. Tell her, ask her out, do something because she's oblivious.
Yeah. But also don't. It's not going to go well.
Sure, I know, but at the same time, he's throwing the hints out there, and she's so self-absorbed on things. It's like, come on, man. But yeah, he's the only character in there that really merits pity in that regard.
Brad Pitt is a nice guy, I think. Like but he's so dumb that he's doing. You're right.
He's kind of too dumb to live. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you don't feel bad for him exactly, because it's like
he's doing this to himself. He enthusiastically jumped into this stuff.
Right.
He's a little strong-armed by McDormand's, but it's really just in terms of you need to put on a suit.
Right.
Which is the aspect of it that he has to be driven to.
Well, he's in it because he just thinks it's cool. Oh God, I mean, for him, I think he's intrigued by the spy shit. So you gotta, when he gets into that phone call, Osborne Cox, it just he's trying to be all Cary Grant, James Bond, and just being a complete moron about it.
Well, even when he gets into the car with him, and he's doing the exact same, like that's his opening line, is just to say the guy's name to him while squinting, mysteriously.
I know, and when Malkovich punches him, that's just, oh God, that's another one of those, just instantaneous laughs for me. Just, oh.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Or when he is yelling at him on the phone, or when he punches him, and he he flips from his spy mode to just like tail between his legs, hurt puppy mode. And then I guess you pity him a little bit in those moments, but he's still trying to do the blackmail through his bloody nose.
Yeah, it's this whole scheme. I mean, this is not far off from Walter and the Dude came up with this. I mean, they've done scenes like this before with characters like this before. It is kind of interesting to me that the way they have turned the dials to make these characters stupider and less sympathetic. Like I couldn't tell you exactly what it is that they have done to make me less invested in whether Linda and Chad pull this off than I would be if Walter and Dude getting the correctly handling the drop on the bag of undies. But it is pronounced and effective. Like I mean, on paper Walter is quite the asshole.
Oh yeah,
but I'm with him. In a way, I'm never with these guys.
Right. Well, the Coen brothers like those characters. Even Walter, they like those. They have affection for him, so they're putting in situations where you can root for him. Whereas the Coen brothers hate every single one of the characters in this film, except for maybe J.K. Simmons and David Raish. That's but yeah, I mean, they
don't have any affection for those guys. Though.
Yeah, they don't have any affection for him, but they don't hate him. They don't hate him. Whereas the Coen brothers clearly hate Brad Pitt's character, Chad. They clearly hate Linda Litsky, in particular. They hate everybody else, and it's just hysterical. Yeah. And I
like the punchline of Swinton's character is revealing that she is a pediatrician, and that's supposed to be a big laugh because she's so evidently such a bitch.
Right. Yeah, she hates everyone too. But I mean, I think the focus of the film being being John Malkovich, who clearly just gets more and more frustrated and more, and watching him take all of his anger on Richard Jenkins there at the end, going, all right, here's my axe and I'm going to chase you. I mean, we've all been that way before with people that have pissed us off. I get it.
Guys with axes, yes.
Well, you know what I mean? Not literally, but we've all wanted to. Malkovich does what we've always wanted to do with somebody that has just pushed us too damn far.
We all felt they were surrounded by idiots, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the Coens have a large degree of sympathy for Osborne Cox either. I think pronouncing less than they have for, say, the Larry Gopnik from A Serious Man, who's also sort of similarly beset and befuddled by everybody. It seemed like everybody around him working against him, and from the stupidest schlubs to the highest, most inscrutable
to God. Yeah.
And they have a degree of sympathy for the patheticness of his plight that I don't think they have for Malkovich in this. Malkovich is just one more player of these.
Just an asshole with a big temper, honestly. There's too many things early on to turn you off Osborne Cox, as funny as he is. Like in the, God, you were a Mormon compared to you. All of us have a drinking problem. Like he's funny in that opening scene, but he's an asshole. You can tell.
Right.
This is a crucifixion. But he puts his arms out like he's on the cross. Like you can't still feel like this is our guy. After that.
Who he kind of reminds me of is Philip Seymour Hoffman's Gus Avocados from Charlie Wilson's War. Except,
like
but
that
again,
guy.
but we like that guy. No, I
version.
totally agree with you on that. But in many respects, that opening scene that we have with him is similar to the scene in some respects between Philip Seymour Hoffman and John Slattery, where you could just see him just he doesn't get the job to be to get sent to Finland, even though he spent the last 3 years learning Finnish. It's just all the frustrations that you have where he's clearly more intelligent than his superior, and I don't know. It's very similar.
I think that's in the Aaron Sorkin version of it. Yes, it's very clear that he's more intelligent and he put in the work and all of that.
He's never ever sick at sea. Yeah,
exactly. Osborne Cox very well could be sick at sea if he hasn't had his grog for the day. And I don't get the sense that he is smarter than Palmer or Olsen, And why the fuck is Olsen here anyway? But that's the stuff that they are just very good at. It seemed so simple of just including that extra person in the room so that he has this extra aside.
No, I view Osborne Cox as like I don't know, maybe like Nicholson in The Shining a little bit, or maybe and I think you should leave character, I guess. He's that kind of energy, and there are like so many red flags right away in those first 20 minutes about what an asshole he is. That and he's played by John Malkovich, for God's sake.
Right.
But like lying to his wife about getting fired, good insight into the character right there.
Yeah.
The way he says memoirs,
Yes.
He's an asshole.
The way he's
pretentious.
He condescends to Clooney immediately about you have lactose intolerance or acid reflux. They're two different things. Like that.
Yeah, he's arrogant. He has so many bad characteristics. And does he have anything redeeming? Not really. But but again, he's in many ways he's probably the most relatable, because if you've ever been in a situation where everything goes wrong, you just go, duh! And again, I've never chased anybody with an axe, but I understand.
That is like Jack Nicholson too. I just realized.
I know.
That scene with his father on the boat is just the most weirdly upsetting scene for no good reason. What a creepy little scene that is.
Yeah.
That was also one of the, it allows him to say memoir again is the main reason, I think. But that really is one of the things that, watching this now, I was struck by how this really is as a follow-up to No Country for Old Men. Like,
yep.
I was seeing a lot more through lines than I did back in real time when they occurred. And that's one of them. Like they established kind of, you said, for almost no reason, it feels like, that he has this invalid father whose example he feels he will never be able to live up to. It's like, that's also what Ed Tom Bell is dealing with in No Country for Old Men. And we get to the end scene of this, and the end sequences of No Country are also a weird counterpoint that, again, we're getting closer.
Yeah,
the dialogue is pretty explicit. It's like, the agency, it's not like it was when you were there, Dad.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like
I can't find the horn of fire.
For me, it's that whole scene is him. He's told the lie, and now he's convinced he's selling the lie to himself with his dad there, and he's making that his own truth at this point versus just lying. It's him.
Yes,
he's totally firming it up in his head. Yes. So now from that point forward, as far as he's concerned, he did quit. That is his reality.
Well, he did quit. Fired. He quit in a childish fit of rage, a peak. But Clooney's also not wrong when he susses out. He says, most people in this town who quit were fired. He was demoted and then turned it into a quit.
No, you're right. That was
fiction. Yeah.
There are other things that, the divorce attorney scenes where he's laying out these elaborate strategies of deception, and also it's kind of funny because he's going through this big sort of, you can tell it's scripted, even though he's kind of fumbling over it, some of the terms. But it's also like completely, he's oblivious to his audience here. Because of course you don't need to walk Tilda Swinton through how she doesn't need to feel bad about downloading his bank records. Like she would be on, if you had paid attention at all to her talking to, you would know she has no, she doesn't need to be slow walked through this.
Yeah.
That felt very much like the scenes you get with Miles Massey or Freddie Riedenschneider in other Coen movies.
Yeah. It's clearly a canned speech by the lawyer. He's given that speech 100 times a year.
I'm obligated to suggest you try to make it work one last time. Yeah.
Yep.
That does kind of place it for me in the same world. Like this could take place in the same exact universe as Intolerable Cruelty, in that there is a secret world of divorce litigation that secretly runs the country.
Well, that, we way back there, I think honestly it's the setting of these things that are more than, say, the batting average of the hit percentage of the jokes even. But because in Intolerable Cruelty, like we talked about in that episode, they're in this weird, just hyperbaric cartoon world where the stakes don't seem to matter at all. It's like, I guess these are bad people, but also it's like, who cares? They're passing cartoon money between different cartoon characters, and none of it seems to have any effect on the real world. This, but we're not reading, is such a striking difference is with the spy thriller aspect of it. It ties it into real world stakes, and then
do you think it?
But then subverts that. But it's like these people with real world jobs and real responsibilities with real world consequences are these cartoon idiots that are more concerned about their sex farce than they are about national security.
Well, it doesn't seem any of them have a real input on national security. Like, you could lose any of these guys, and I don't think the country's going to feel the change, Like
he's only level 3. Who cares?
Yeah. Harry Farr going to Venezuela couldn't matter less.
I know. But I want to comment on one thing you brought up, Al, which is the hit miss ratio. I think the joke hit miss ratio on this is very, very high. I would put it at about 95%. Whereas on something like Intolerable Cruelty, I don't know, maybe 50. That one just doesn't seem to gel for me. And unfortunately, I didn't see Burn After Reading theatrically. I wish I had. I actually went and saw Intolerable Cruelty in the theater, and I remember being very underwhelmed by it. I'm like, this didn't really work for me. So when Burn After Reading looked like Intolerable Cruelty 2, I opted not to see it. But when it came out, I watched it. I was like, oh man, I wish I had seen this in a full theater, because this must have just killed theatrically based upon how hard I was laughing.
The right audience, maybe, but I could see this perplexing people.
I suppose
it's a smart comedy. It's a smart comedy, and that isn't always going to work exactly.
Yeah, and there had
Brad
to be
Pitt's going to play. Brad Pitt will play no matter what, I'm sure.
Right.
There had to be some people though that did manage to go into this thinking it was a spy thriller with Brad Pitt and George Clooney.
Probably a few.
Technically it is. At a certain degree, technically it is. It's just they didn't, and then the sex machine shows up from George Clooney to throw
which is
things into work.
An incredible,
which is the best joke in the history of movies, probably.
That reveal is I mean, yeah. And to cap it off, Frances McDormand's reaction to it just makes it all the better too.
Yeah, she's taken aback, and you think she might have a normal human reaction to something for once.
Right.
Then, of course, no, she has got the worst reaction to everything ever.
Oh, man.
This is a joke they've been building up to since Blood Simple, which is something we've discovered in listening to them talk and do interviews and stuff. And this one's been in the hopper for over 20 years at this point.
Yes, it came out of a story from the set of Blood Simple. Like one of their crew members told them basically how he'd done this, like getting hung up on like, that's so much money. I could build that for $75. But
$100 all in.
It's also like, it struck me this time that it's like a souped up version of the penis sketch in Jackie Treehorn's house at the Big Lebowski, where it's this build up of this like big spy sort of sequence. That's, the build up there is that it's the dude being a private eye, like actively for like the first time in the movie, basically, and doing something halfway clever. And then the reveal is he just drew a big dick. And that's what this is, even a better version of that joke. I mean, because it's more elaborate. And they have Carter Burwell really like working overtime to sell it. Like I love this is a rare movie that pulls off like just making a joke out of the score.
Yeah, Burwell's score is quite good in this.
When isn't it?
But it could be for a board movie. Like,
sure,
it would function as that.
Yeah.
One thing about the sex machine I think is very, very interesting. Struck me this time is it's devised entirely for her pleasure. It is ostensibly a gift for his wife, and I take that to mean that despite his selfishness in many respects, Harry Farr is a generous lover.
I mean, Tilda Swinton strikes me as hard to please in this movie, but she keeps coming back. So
it's fun to see them have scenes in bed together. When my first association with them is Michael Clayton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, but arguably they have just as much contempt for each other here as they do there.
That's a good point. That's a fair statement.
True enough.
Oh, man.
All right. Should we talk about the final act of this thing then?
Sure.
Where this lands.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Just in terms of other like on my Coen bingo card, the runner of Clooney is being tailed by a private eye throughout all this. That feels like something that now comes up about every other Coen movie, whether it's Lebowski or Blood Simple or Intolerable Cruelty, even with like the Secretary Tenry character. But people are they're noticing tails.
Who are you? God, that was that. And again, the way that whole scene is edited together with him looking at everybody and just being ultra paranoid. Are you watching me? Are you watching me? Who are you? Oh man.
I will give Linda Litsky one thing. The closest I come to having sympathy for her is the depiction of this sort of middle-aged dating situation in DC seems quite miserable. Quite sad and bad and lonely. The date she goes on before she meets Clooney with the dude that she already doesn't respect before they go into it is already bad before she realizes he's married. It's already a terrible, creepy date.
Yeah, but she is actively making that DC dating scene worse too.
Oh yeah, totally.
she's definitely part of the problem there.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a cesspool no matter how you cut it, though. There are not a lot of heroes in the DC dating scene.
Yeah. One thing I love is the note of when they go, she does the whole date with Clooney again. It's pretty later on. They're going to this movie? Yes, the Dermot Mulroney movie. And then as they meet her at the theater and he's like, "Oh, have you seen this one already?" And she's like, no, I haven't. And he's like, "Oh, I hear it's great." But it's just like such a pointless lie. Like she could just say, "Yeah, it was good," or whatever. But it's just such a thing to. It brought me to mind, as all great movies do, a bit from Norm Macdonald from way back in the day, where he used to get a bit about saying like, "You ever catch yourself lying for no reason?" It was like the other day, somebody like this guy came to me and said, "Oh, you see that that movie with the Jason Bourne movie?" And I go, "Yes." He goes like an internal monologue. Like, I stand to gain nothing from this lie.
Right.
I guess I have to live my whole life now pretending I have done that. This movie, and that's like that ran through my mind. Was like, you stand to gain nothing from this lie. But they included just to make her that much more hateful, I guess.
Sure, that much more superficial.
Yeah.
But you do get the contrast. Obviously, you go in there and Clooney's character Harry's engaged with the movie and laughing along with her in the audience, whereas the other guy's just a dead fish.
Yeah, they're actually kind of a good match.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they are. They're well aligned, except for the fact that he's married.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not gonna like. That's the thing. Yeah, he's not actually. He's not gonna be good for anyone. He's a pathological liar, and seems to have no control over himself and any of his appetites.
Well, he's all about the sex. He's all and he thinks he's getting away with it. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but the fact that he's getting away with it, and at the end of the movie, he realizes I'm not. Because all his paranoia is all about the fact that his wife hired a private investigator or a law firm.
Yeah, I mean, sure, he's not going to be good for her in the long run, but better for her in the long run than any other option I could come up with her. Like,
I suppose.
even if she somehow gave Ted a shot, that would be horrible for both of them.
I think that she's a fundamentally unhappy person, as are most of these characters, and even getting the surgery is not going to change that. Is my read on that?
No, of course not.
Yeah, of course not.
No.
And so that's why I say, like, she gets what she wants, but not really, doesn't really fix her in any way. And we just, by knowing her, that is apparent. Right. Speaking about Coen bingo, we've been talking about uncertainty principles and the secret pipework of the universe. I mean, that is all just stuff that is, it's quite literally text in French farce. Anything like where it's a bunch of characters who have part of the story, but not all of the story, getting into comic mishaps and shenanigans as a result of only knowing a certain piece of the thing. It's the blind men and the elephant, and they all, know a piece of the story, but not all of it. So it in a way, it is a great choice for them and their proclivities to make a film like this.
Well, and setting it within the surveillance state. Where that, the opening and closing shots of satellite views of the country suggests that these are, people that at least work in the arena where they should have a complete picture of everything. And yet nobody can put two and two together to save their lives. Particularly Pitt or Jenkins, who, I don't know if we want to talk about the murders sequences in this movie.
Both pretty
incredible.
Yeah.
The Jenkins one, it's really like shot for shot the Fargo Buscemi murder, how it's framed and everything.
Right.
But
you see an axe go into a head this time.
That's true.
That's notable.
That's true.
And Malkovich out there in his robe and slippers, just it's just much credit to Malkovich for being 100% all in on the character of Osborne Cox. Yes, just totally dialed in on everything and allowing himself to look so frumpy in a way with it.
Well, and one of the best laughs in this movie too is him doing the aerobics on his boat, watching the. Watching the exercise video, and he's like, his mantra to himself is like, "I'm back, I'm hip, I'm better than ever," and he just starts slipping in, "You fuckers."
I know,
you fuckers. It's so good, and it shows you exactly like the thing. This is our sympathetic character. It's like, well, he's also just motivated by petty grievances.
Oh yeah. And you also like the fact that he's supposed to be working on his memoirs, and then he is initially, I'm going to work on that memoir. And then what's he doing later on? He's just watching TV and zoning out, and letting himself just go to pot, barely getting showered or barely getting
Jack
dressed.
Torrance than I realized when I made that comparison.
Oh, I know. It's actually,
pouring in his first, he's watching the clock so he can pour his first drink of the day. And then he's very scrupulous about the first one, pouring it back so that it's a single shot. That's something Jack Torrance would do. Of course, then you get the great Coen style visual punchline that you're not sure if the audience will even get. But later, his wife comes home and sees the note he left about going to the prison dinner, and there's a half dozen of the limes from the drinks. He had 6 more, and you're pretty sure he didn't scrupulously check to make sure they were all singles.
I like that he's arranged them in a design around the note. So they went to the Harvard Club or the Princeton Club, right? That's a great little moment. The room full of frat boys drinking and singing.
The Nassau thing, the Nassau song. But it's my favorite John Malkovich performance that I've seen. It's the way it escalates, and again, I wonder, and again going back to that phone call scene. I wonder how much of that was ad-libbed. I wonder if the Coen brothers let them ad-lib that at all,
very little.
Yeah.
It seems to be from all the reports that we've covered.
But it feels like it could have been to a certain degree, I wonder if they gave them some leeway that, if in the moment with the interacting, the back and forth, to make it, if you feel something in the moment, especially from Pitt, I get the feeling Pitt maybe snuck in some things that weren't on the page in there.
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know, because like this is a thing they're actually really good at, is that they script out things that sound very human, like I sound right now, stumbling over words and hems and ums and ahs and all that, and they do all that to the precise like punctuation mark.
Right.
And I'm sure they'll have some...
Mamet. I mean, remember those stories about Macy and Fargo coming from the Mamet school and articulating every single dash or dot or and then just kind of like, wow, that you actually got all of them in there.
Well, but from Fargo too is where we got the story of Pierce Stormore tells about them correcting him because he said Pancake House because he thought Pancake's House was a typo in the script, and they had him do it again and say, no, it's Pancake's House.
I don't see them as having a lot of room for improv. I will admit they seem very very controlled about all of it. But I mean, this could also be edited differently, or changed in the editing room. That's why that telephone scene is so funny, is because the timing is perfected in the editing room.
Well, it escalates. The escalation in that scene, because when they first called Malkovich, he's like, who is this? And then by the third time, Pitts asked him Osborne Cox, and he's just, you moron, who is this? And then you're off to the races for about 2-3 minutes, and I'm just on the floor laughing. God, that's
but I think they script all those. I don't think that they choreograph his dance moves. Right. I think that's what Pitt really brings to the table in this. Yeah, that's great. I mean, like I read a script version of this. I never know when you Google a script if it's like a real copy of the shooting script or if it's something like a transcript somebody put together after the fact or whatever. This one, presumably it's real. The only like notable addition or like thing that was taken out of the script that I actually thought should have stayed in it is after Clooney runs down the private eye and realizes his wife's divorcing him. He gets a call on his cell phone as he's reeling from Osborne Cox. And Malkovich wants his wife's phone number because he wants to talk to her publisher about his memoir. And but Clooney, of course, misunderstands immediately and is like, "You want my?" He's like, I would like to speak to your wife or whatever." He's like, "You can't tell her anything she doesn't already know, fucker." They're just like this confusing back and forth, and he hangs up without having like anybody realizing what is going on. But it fits into, it's like, I think it would be funny in that moment, and also it fits into everything we're talking about with the uncertainty principle. Nobody understands what's really going on. Mm-hmm. Report back to me when it all makes sense element of this.
I know, and it's all punctuated. And again, I don't talk about the ending here, but it's all punctuated by the whole J.K. Simmons, David Rage interchanges where they're all like, we don't really know.
Yeah. Can we talk about the ending? Are we there?
Yeah, let's. Yeah,
we can.
We finally made it.
Mm-hmm. The ending makes this film. The ending is why this works.
Well, we were talking about the axe murder a few minutes ago and how you see the axe go in and then you see another axe chop. No matter how many times I've seen this movie, it feels like there's always one more axe chop that I'm ready for. Before that hard cut to J.K. Simmons in the final scene. That is one of the best cuts in movie history. I mean,
it's great.
To go straight from this like crescendo of the escalating like violence and I guess quote unquote intensity of the movie to now we're just doing this denouement, and it's incredible. Like this, it's almost sort of the apex of what I was talking about with our No Country for Old Men episode about how like the Coens have been playing more and more with like how much can we have happen off screen and just reveal sort of after the fact later and have the audience get it. And like in this movie, honestly, I don't even make this connection between them. But if Osborne Cox is our main character or Llewellyn Moss figure, they kill the main character off screen again, twice in a row.
Yep.
I mean, everyone is resolved off camera essentially, except the people who die. Right. But they all
we learned about the arrest of two main characters and the shooting of another entirely through this debrief from these other two characters that like had one scene prior to this.
I know, but you could have shown it on screen, but it's much funnier to have David Raish go, and and then he, I mean, that's, it's I'm trying to deliver bad news, and the way that J.K. Simmons just kind of goes, good, great, what's next? It just doesn't matter. His absolute disinterest, in things. Is he gonna die? All right, well, don't worry, we'll worry about that anyway. He's level 3. Who cares?
But it's obvious he was hoping that he would die. He's like, oh, that would have been nice, but fine, we'll deal with it later. What I love about this too is that this is almost structurally, it's set up to be a Deus Ex Machina, right?
Yeah.
Where that is like in the, if we're talking about French farce or whatever, in the stage tradition of a Deus Ex Machina, is the king shows up in the final scene to just resolve the unresolvable conflicts and say, actually, everybody gets a pardon or whatever. You're now the duke.
Right.
And that's sort of what J.K. Simmons just drops into this movie to wrap things up, except he wraps up nothing. He does nothing. He just shrugs at it all and goes, oh, okay, good. That's already done. That's already resolved then.
Right. Put him on a flight to Venezuela. Fuck.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care. Get rid of him.
The only thing he does is pay for the surgeries. That's the
pay it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, basically, how this ends is Richard Jenkins and Brad Pitt are killed through sort of misadventure and mishap. Malkovich is shot and by a sort of one of the guys surveilling him when he sees him murdering a guy in the street. He goes into a coma. Clooney believes he's getting stalked by operatives and goes to Venezuela. They apprehend him and realize he is unimportant and let him go to Venezuela.
Yes. He attempts to play off screen after the last time we've seen him. We last saw him just running through the National Mall, away from Francis McDormand in a blind panic. And then we find out that he attempted to flee the country, but was caught. And then just released anyway, because they don't want it. He's so unimportant that they don't even want to arrest him for the murder that they know he committed.
Put him on a plane. Get him out of here.
Yeah. And Francis McDormand says, I'll play ball if you pay for all my surgeries. And they're like, fine. That's the end.
They don't know what exactly they're covering up with her, but they're just know that this is the fastest way to resolve to be out of this movie.
Now, to me, what this means, the way I'm reading this ending is that these characters are so insignificant and so small. They are ants. That's what the another thing that the big pull in and pull out from from space view of Earth at the beginning ending is just how cosmically unimportant these characters are. So much so that they don't even merit karma. That their fates will be just sort of randomly distributed at the end, with no real care or purpose. That they are that little importance.
Their resolutions are afterthoughts. They don't merit a resolution. It's just they're considered an afterthought. Who cares? Are we done? Yeah, close the folder.
Well, they're not even sure, but they think they're done. They don't know what they did. And I love that. Yeah, that of course the best lines of the movie about, what did we learn, Palmer? I don't know, sir. Guess we learned not to do it again. Yes, sir.
Although
fuck if I know what we did. No, sir. No, it's hard to say. That's sort of the Coen filmography in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's as John and I have been tracking. That's our through line.
Right. I love it. It's just a very funny movie.
It presents as a minor work, I think. It does not have, very intentionally, does not have the sort of legendary characters that you will meme and care about and take a piece of them with you going forward, like, The Big Lebowski or many of their other movies. They're kind of intentionally disposable characters. But even still, this is very much in line with what has come before and has moved up for me in this rewatch. I have more respect for this movie than I used to. It still doesn't crack probably I don't know if it cracks the top 10 when we get there, we'll find out in the rankings, but they don't really make.
But that's not
movies,
not because it's bad. It's because they have 8 fucking masterpieces.
I know, and I'm going to disagree with you that there's no standout character. Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt has been memified in a major way. His dancing bit, him getting shot in the closet. There's a whole lot of things. And even people that don't like the movie, I'm sure, remember Brad Pitt and remember how he died. He is. On a superficial level, you walk away from this appreciating Brad. One of the things we mentioned in terms of superficiality, he's the one that you could do a Halloween costume.
out of.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
That's
right.
The memeability.
The only one I can really imagine the Funko Pop. Yeah.
Although actually, I would
with a
fucking
bullet
love,
hole in the head.
Yeah, we're of an age now. I might be able to pull off an Osborne Cox in a bathrobe and a hatchet for next Halloween,
and a scotch in your hand.
Yeah. I could have a drink in my hand. Any Halloween
dress
costume
like that for no reason. Yeah.
I mean, that's the dude. I guess is also another one. It's a bathrobe and a drink in hand. That's a great Halloween costume because it's simple.
But and I agree with you. This is probably meant to be kind of a lesser work in their canon, but it's so
comes
well.
After No Country for Old Men. I mean, this is like
it's kind of essential though, as the comedic counterparts of No Country for Old Men. They said they're swimming in some of the same thematic waters though, which is No Country for Old Men treats it as tragedy, and this treats it as farce.
But while I agree that this isn't one of their premier entries, if you will, one of their this isn't one of their prestige entries. The execution of it is so good. It's one of those films that's better than it has any right to be. And for me, I absolutely dial in on it. I've seen it a few times now, and I rewatched it this week prepping for this, and I was laughing just as hard in this rewatch as I was the last time I saw this. This thing just, I think it's so perfectly executed. I could see it not working for some people. It depends. You need to dial in on it. And you need to recognize these archetypes in your real life in order to go, God, I understand his frustration. But for me, again, as I said, it's not their best movie. I would say that's a toss-up between Fargo and No Country. But it may be my favorite, and it's definitely one of my favorite comedies.
I think that ties into what I was saying about that this is a script that like only they could write in this way. Like that on the page, these lines, like the script is not going on the blacklist if it's from an unknown. But they are so such masters of their craft at this point. They're right. It's all elevated on the screen. The execution is so good that they can't. They're almost incapable of making a minor work directly on the heels of No Country. So it kind of gets pulled up a degree. Even if it's attempting to be minor, it almost can't pull that off.
Right.
Well, the sort of the comic misanthropy of this is notable. I mean, there's very few films feel this way. It's, I could see that kind of scotching the whole deal for some people in the audience, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it does for me in Intolerable Cruelty. This one works a lot better, I think, in an undeniable way, though. This just seems like as mastery of their craft and of what they're putting on screen and the timing and the performances. It's kind of undeniable in that way, I think. Even if it were to turn you off, there's sort of, this is really well put together for what it is. It's kind of exceptional, and I have to agree with that. Yeah.
I also think that it's the edit is great because I can't think of anything extraneous. I don't know what I would edit out of this to try and reduce any runtime, because to me everything that Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean, but everything in there belongs. I can't think of anything in there that I would remove that felt extraneous, and it moves at a really good clip too.
Mm-hmm.
That's for a farce. That's how it has to work. All the pieces do have to tumble together in the end, like a Seinfeld episode, and that means you can't really remove even the stuff that seems like throwaway nonsense at the beginning, because it is all going to mesh, fit together in the end to create a jigsaw puzzle with a picture of nothing that
means nothing,
that has no lesson. But this, I think one of the things, as a way of perhaps wrapping this up, that separates this from your Intolerable Cruelties, your Lady Killers, and has more in common with Raising Arizona, is that it also just has one of the most perfect ending lines and like outs in movie history. It's kind of amazing that like no one had either thought of or had the balls to go through with ending a movie on this note before, but it is one of the most memorable things about the movie, and I think probably the most iconic thing about it is ending the movie with just Jake Gyllenhaal saying "Jesus fucking Christ," and then cut to credits.
There's not a lot of ceremony to it.
No.
I mean, especially coming after the last film, which has this ending, which is just like getting hit in the face with a hammer almost. This was just like, well, that's it. Wrap it up. Bye.
But even that has got kind of a hard cut to black after they like. That's what I say about these being counterpoints for each other. That No Country also ends with. I mean, this like No Country ends with sort of these guys, these older guys, getting together to try and like puzzle out like. This is such a fucking mess. Like, what can we at least like divine a moral from this? Like, what do we learn? And No Country's like, well, all the morals we got of this are real bad, and even like worse than meaningless. So we should. Hey, we don't want to take it too deep. And then this, they're just like, I don't fucking know, man. We got nothing. But they both like do this kind of hard cut out at the end, you know.
All right. Well, I think that wraps us up on Burn After Reading, right? That was a fun one to revisit. Thank you, Matt, for joining us for this.
Thank you for having me.
The next film we're talking about in the Coen-Oscopy is A Serious Man, which I think probably operates as a bit of the third part of a triptych for their bleak misogyny trilogy here, perhaps.
Misanthropy.
God damn it! I was saying something intelligent and fucked it up at the end. All right, well, fine.
I know I don't know how.
Uncertainty. That is appropriate for matters of this world.
There, we're in a tight spot.